Hey folks, and welcome to another art tips video. Today I'm going to show you how to prime a surface for painting. So why would you need to prime a surface? So mostly because your paint won't soak through and you won't have to put lots of paint on. It's going to get messy, so you're going to need a surface or a space that you don't mind getting messy. I use an old board. You're going to need a pot or a bowl to mix your gesso in, and a sacrificial paintbrush you don't mind saying goodbye to. To begin with, you're also going to need a little pot of water. I use my old painting cup here. And of course, gesso. Wonderful stuff. It's a mixture of acrylic paint, plaster, chalk, and other stuff that will seal the surface of your board. I paint on MDF. I buy this from my local art store. You can get it from any hardware store. It's relatively cheap. And I get it cut to A3 sheets, and I do about 10 of them at a time. And I'll get about 20 paintings done out of all of that. Okay, mixing your gesso, you want to pour some into your bowl. I'll get about 3 boards done with that, I reckon. And you want to add some water to it. You don't want to use it straight out the pot like that. It takes a bit of practice to work out how much. I pour enough in, so when I mix it up, I just get a little bit that sort of drops off the end of the brush. You don't want it to be super liquid, and likewise, you don't want it to be super thick. Otherwise, if it's too liquidy, it'll take you forever to paint. If it's too thick, you'll end up with big ridges of paint along your surface, which is not what you want. Okay, then you're ready for your first layer of paint. Okay, for this layer, make sure all your brush strokes are going in the same way. So for me, it's up and down for this first one. This makes it easier to get any ridges of paint out the way and make a nice even surface, and just try and get an even coat on it. Don't try and put it on too thick. Just try and cover all the areas you haven't covered. The board will actually soak this up quite a lot when it dries, and once you've got that done, you're going to want to let it dry for maybe 20 minutes to 45 minutes before you put the second layer on. Okay, now you can see with the second layer I'm going the other way. I'm going left to right. So I'm covering that up, and you can see how much it's soaked in before. So again, just trying to get a nice even surface on that, even covering on that surface. Okay, by now you'll probably start to notice that as the board dries, that it will start to turn up and bend. So the way to get around that is what I call the magic X. So once that layer's dry, turn your board over and put a great big X across the back. This will counteract the bending of the board. When the X dries, it'll make it bend the other way, which will keep your board flat. I know it feels edgy and rock and roll to put an X on the back, and it makes me feel very metal, but it serves a purpose. So I put my other layer on. We're starting to see we're getting a clean surface now, nice and clear and white, so we can work on it. Again, trying to keep it smooth. If you do end up with big ridges of paint, it's perfectly fine to sand it down afterwards. That's fine. But again, making sure each layer is dry before I put the next layer on. You can, of course, buy pre-gessoed surfaces, but they tend to be a little bit more expensive, and they often have a texture that doesn't really do it for me. So I do this myself. I find it a little bit relaxing before I start work. And once you've got that final coat on, I've used 4 for this. Sometimes you can get away with 3, but for now, that's it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope it was useful. See you next time.